Okay. Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning.
All right. Are we ready to start? It's 9 o'clock.
I am ready. Fire away, ma'am.
Okay, we will call to order the Board of Fire Commissioners for Tuesday, July 21st, and it is 9 a.m. at the accredited time to start, and we will start by asking Mr. Kukulis if he will please lead us in a salute to the flag. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I guess I should have said chief. Thank you very much, sir. Okay, Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Of course. Bob Lucy, Chair. Via Zoom.
Here.
Marcia Burke-Bigler,
Here.
Vice Chair. Katie Jung via phone.
Present.
Vaughn Hartung via Zoom.
Here.
Jeannie Herman.
Here.
Chief Charles Moore.
Here.
Deputy District Attorney Nathan Edwards via Zoom.
Here.
Deputy District Attorney Mary Canderas via Zoom.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. With that, we will go to public comment. Mr. Chief. Chief, would you handle that for us?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Now, item 3 is public comment. Comment heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the Board of Fire Commissioners' agenda. District will also hear public comment during individual action items. With comment limited to 3 minutes per person, comments are to be made to the Board of Fire Commissioners as a whole. Madam Clerk, is there any?
There is nobody signed in on our system. I don't know about Zoom.
Anything on Zoom? Okay, we see no public comment, so we will close public comment and come back to the board. And Chief, we're on to Commissioners and Fire Chiefs announcements.
Item 4, I do have one announcement, Madam Vice Chair. If the board approves item F in the consent agenda, the district will not have a regular meeting in August, but instead will start the new schedule September 1st at 10 a.m.
Okay? All right. Commissioner Herman, anything from you?
No, thank you.
Okay, Chair Lucy?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I really wanted to just take a quick moment and thank all of our Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District, or TMFR, as I continue to see in the news these days, Fire and Rescue, staff and employees for all their hard work over the last couple of weeks. We've had some very busy weeks with very tenuous conditions with the heat and the drought, and these rapid wildfires that we see with our afternoon winds. I want to thank them for their time and effort. I believe all of us have experienced a fire in each one of our districts at some point over the last couple of weeks, and I just want to thank you for their time and effort and their what they've been doing. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Hartung?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'd like to echo the chairman's comments. He's just so right. And not to take any thunder away from the chief, I would like to congratulate the chief and his wife and his staff for the graduation ceremony that was held on July 17th at our new headquarters in South Reno. We had 10 graduates, Madam Chair, and the program went off without a flaw. If you have not been out to see that new facility, I would highly recommend that you go and see it. They had on display our new ladder truck with a beautiful flag hanging off the end of the ladder. It was really quite an impressive program. So, Chief, congratulations, and well done again to you, to your wife, I know, who pulled off the kind of the programming of it all and the meal, and of course all of your staff, Chief Kukulis and others who just really made it a memorable evening. That's all I have. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Hartung. Commissioner Jung?
No, thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Okay. Well, with that, I would simply say I was actually going to mention both things that the chair and Commissioner Hartung mentioned, so I'll just say ditto to both of those. And with that, we will move on to the consent agenda. Chief?
The consent items, number 5, if there are any questions that the board has, I'd be glad to answer those, but we'll let the item stand unless there's anything to be pulled.
And it's 5A through F, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any questions from any members of the board? Do we have any public comment on any of these items in the consent agenda?
I don't see any public comment.
Okay, anything in Zoom? Okay, we have no public comment, so I'll bring it back to the board. I'm looking for a
Madam-
motion.
Madam Chair, sorry,
Commissioner Hartung,
little bit of a delay and I apologize. Motion to approve the consent agenda as written in the staff report.
thank you. Do I have a second? I have a second.
Second, Madam Vice.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Herman also seconded it, so we'll leave it to you to put it on. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously with all commissioners voting. Chief?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Item 6 is a recommendation to accept a donation from Greenbacker Capital for the purchase of a UTV. Greenbacker Capital is funding the solar farm called Turquoise Solar Farm, which is going down the I-80 corridor. It's challenging for us to be able to defend a wildfire in and around the solar array because it's on such a steep hillside. With the applicant, we went through a number of ideas about how we would defend. The applicant really would like to preserve the site with minimal disturbance, so we ruled out an access road in and around the solar farm, and we agreed that they would fund a UTV so that we can take firefighters' tools and equipment in and around the array. So this is a capital contribution and a donation from them to the district in order to fund that piece of equipment.
Thank you, Chief. Commissioners, any questions regarding this item? Do we have any public comment on this item?
There's nobody signed in.
Okay, and nobody on Zoom, so we'll close public comment. I'm looking for a motion to approve item 6. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it looks like the motion carries unanimously with all commissioners voting. Thank you. Item 7, Chief.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Item 7 is a presentation regarding the peer support program and its regional efforts, and Captain Derek Reed will give the board an update.
Welcome, Captain Reed. Nice
Good
to see
morning.
you.
You hear me okay? For the record, Captain Derek Reed, Truckee Meadows Fire and Rescue and President of the Northern Nevada Peer Support Network. I am, at your request, I am pleased to give you a brief update. It'll take probably 3 to 4 minutes regarding the Northern Nevada Peer Support Network. I will provide you with some bullet point informational topics and be happy to field any questions you have after that. Our activities have been mostly virtual in nature, but I believe we're still making an impact for the first responders and their families. As most of you are aware, we're doing resilience rounds. We've done 9 up to this point. Basically what those are 1-hour to 2-hour sessions that we talk about emotional resilience and the current state of affairs, COVID-19, work-family balance, and we open up the conversation to those members that participate. That's with our board of directors and our clinical advisors, so they have a full range of people to bounce ideas off and express, how it is living in this time. We've presented at the Truckee Meadows Fire and Rescue new Fire Recruit Academy. We provided a 4-hour workshop, Stephen Nicholas and I, talking about mental size up, defining healthy coping mechanisms, and tools for enhancing family and work-life balance. We advise new recruits on how to access the peer support resources for Truckee Meadows as well as the Northern Nevada Peer Support Network. We also participated in the health fair at Truckee Meadows Fire Headquarters, and the purpose of that was to bring awareness for the Truckee Meadows Peer Support Resources and the Northern Nevada Peer Support Resources We provided them with a mental size up and peer support bifold wallet size information that people can ask questions for themselves, and also it gives them a really brief and basic peer support model. I've been having dialogue with Washoe County Human Resources, Matthew Ellis and Patricia Hurley. We've had discussions regarding generating revenue and also resource awareness for Washoe County employees. Some of those suggestions for bringing awareness and messaging are by using Inside Washoe and Yammer, the Microsoft 365 application. And also Northern Nevada has posters that are small in size, but it basically explains the mission of our organization, as well as provide a QR code to access the website and any kind of crisis call information that somebody can access on their own. We are growing in size and membership. Barton Memorial Hospital recently joined the Northern Nevada Peer Support Network. We've had 2 critical incident stress management teams they resurrected from an inactive status and now are actually doing crisis intervention. I would say the most exciting thing that we have going on now is the Southern Nevada first responder groups are anxious to join our network. I figured that they'd want to join or create their own Southern Nevada peer support. Both labor and management are asking, how can we join that organization? So I created a Southern Nevada tab on the website on the main menu. So we basically created a place for them to start building resources. We do have a meeting July 29th where we'll be speaking to all of those groups. And it appears that we have buy-in from both labor and management down there through the PFFN and their groups, their EAP groups down there. Truckee Meadows Fire headquarters, we were able to host the Great Basin Chaplain Corps meeting 2 Saturdays ago. We had 15 chaplains. They met for about an hour and a half discussing community service needs. They did follow all the phase 2 requirements following, including face masks, social distancing, and a check-in process. The Peer Support Network has done some deployment and outreach. Mason Valley had a tragedy, and we reached out to them to provide any resources they may need. The retiree community is in great need of what we're doing and the resources and providing a platform for them to come together and develop that connection. Recently, myself and another board member deployed to UNR Police Department to support them in their loss of Bonnie, their canine. And we've also, one of the reasons for that is some of their other peer support and law enforcement were in quarantine. So they made phone calls to us and we said we'd be happy to help, and went down there and supported some of their administrative staff. So in closing, I'd like to thank Chief Moore, Chief Kukulis, and the Board of Commissioners for supporting what we're doing here. We're only 7 months old, and the momentum of this far exceeds what I ever thought it would be. And I encourage anyone that is out there that may be struggling to reach out for guidance and access the website for mental health and resilience resources. You don't have to be a first responder for these resources to be of value to you. And I believe they can provide help. They can be helpful to any of our 2,700 Washoe County employees. And I'm happy to field any questions you have at this time.
Chief Reed, I can't thank you. Captain Reed, I can't thank you enough for what you're doing. This is so important, and especially in this time of COVID where we're kind of all isolated and we don't know who we talk to or how we go talk to them. You're doing a great job, and this is a terrific program, which is of course why other groups want to come and join into it. So thank you so much for your leadership on this. Chief, thank you also for directing it and letting it happen. I know that you guys are doing a great thing, and I am so pleased to hear that you went and helped the guys who lost their dog at UNO. That was, as you guys all know, I'm a dog person from the word go, and that was just so heartbreaking for me. I wanted to reach out to them myself, and I'm glad you guys did, so thank you very much. I appreciate it. Commissioners, anyone else have a comment that they'd like to make? Any questions?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Hartung.
thank you. Captain Reed, how are the talks going with the SO and the police side of this? Are we still moving forward to create a much larger group that anyone can enter into and with their support as well?
The first question, the law enforcement is absolutely involved. We have talks all the time with the Washoe County Sheriff's Department. We talk. They are already part of the network. As far as the funding goes, we're kind of in a situation with COVID where that's difficult to generate those kind of funds directly from the department themselves. However, the resource is still a standalone resource. They're there. As far as funding, that's something that we're looking for in the future with grant funding. Southern Nevada coming on board, that's going to generate some revenue. And yeah, so we're hanging in there. We're not in any desperate need of funds at this time.
Okay, now I understand. Thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You bet, Commissioner Hartung. Chair Lucy or Commissioner Jung? All right, hearing nothing from either one. Commissioner Herman, did you have? All right, thank you very much. And this is not it's for discussion only, so we don't need to do public comment, but thank you for everything you're doing. Chief, it is time for your report.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Item 8 is the Fire Chief's report. The first is a budget update. I've asked Cindy Vance to come and give you a brief summary of where we finished the last fiscal year, and the news is not all that bad.
Good.
Good morning, Commissioners. Cindy
Good
Vance,
morning.
Chief Fiscal Officer. In your package, there is a general fund fiscal 2020 budget update. This was as of just a couple weeks ago, so it is before we do all our financial closing. But currently, we are our revenues collected at that time were 98% of the budget. We still have 2 months for C-Tax to come in, so we are actually expecting to be a little bit over budget for revenues in ending of the fiscal year. And our expenses were about 90% of budget, and that excludes contingency. We didn't use our contingency fund, so we'll be able to roll that forward. There are about, I think we had 2.5 payrolls, because our payroll does run 2 weeks behind, so that will post into there, and then in related retirement contributions and other employee benefits. But currently, we're looking to end the fiscal year with probably a higher than expected fund balance, rolling into fiscal year 21.
Good. Good news. Commissioners, any questions for Cindy?
I have a question, Madam Chairwoman.
Yes, Madam Commissioner Jung.
Thank you. Ms. Vance, when you say it's going to come in higher, can you speculate what percentage that will be higher this closeout?
And total revenues, probably less than 1%, but real close there.
But the ending fund balance.
Oh, the ending fund balance, I'm not sure. I would not want to guess on that at this point, because there are a lot of accruals, but it'll be probably higher than we originally budgeted for, definitely, but at that point, I don't know.
Give me a range. You said less than 1%. Can you tell me 0 to 10% higher, 10 to 20% higher? I mean, you can give me a range, right?
Probably, I would say in the 3 to 4% higher than expected, if I was a guess.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And then, Ms. Vance, I know that this is speculatory and difficult, and I'm sure all of the financial gurus like yourself are trying to figure this out. When we see this type of report, what I want to just put on the record that property values, which is where we get our fiscal revenue, really, is vis-a-vis property taxes, which are dedicated to this fund. It is much anticipated, unfortunately, that property values are going to collapse. We don't know when, we don't know for how long. So I know we must have a balance in making sure we're taking care of our employees. After all, that's their money, right, to bargain over. But we also need to be listening to you, which your job is to say always, in my experience, finance people, and that's a good thing, that's how you live, is always to hold our horses. So what I would ask from you and from the fire chief is, and you're probably already doing this, so it's not a criticism or dictatorship. I'm just asking, have we done some scenario planning, and have we shared that with your bargaining unit?
Can answer that.
Go ahead. Well, we've done, in our budget for fiscal year '21, we did put some positions. We kind of did a contingency, a higher than expected contingency, to be able to watch that. But as for communications with the union, we do plan to do a presentation, actually, all staff tomorrow, to kind of give
Great.
a heads up.
Great timing too, because you wanted to bring it to us and get our feedback, so I appreciate that. But what I would encourage you to help me, if you don't mind, and I might be the only commissioner, so it might not be a board of fire commissioners agenda item, but can you and I and the fire chief and anybody else you think, can we talk about a little bit of scenario planning, or how you do it, or what you plan on doing, only in so much as where you need help in terms of policy, and to just kind of get us up to speed? Because again, and I know you're doing it, Ms. Vance, and I have no doubt that you're not. Can you bring me up onto that along with the chief or his designee, just so I have a sense of the impending doom that I feel right now? Can you just abuse me of it, or talk me through it when it comes to our revenue sources? That is all, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jung. I appreciate your comments. Chair Lucy or Commissioner Hartung, did you have anything on the budget?
Nothing, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Nothing from me either, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Vance. I appreciate your comments, and we will move on. Chief?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Item 2 is an update on bond financing, and we are contemplating bringing a recommendation to the board in September to solicit bonds that would pay for the improvements for Hidden Valley and reimburse the district for the land it purchased for the consolidated station in Washoe Valley. That is around $2.1 million.
Correct.
Interest rates are extremely low right now.
Yes, they are.
And there is an appetite for banks to loan money. So the debt service on that amount would be somewhere in the neighborhood of $140,000 to $160,000, depending on the term and the final interest rate. But getting Hidden Valley complete, I believe, is a priority for the district, because that apparatus bay is just dreadfully small. There's only one piece of apparatus that fits into that one Type 1 engine that we have that fits into that bay. So we've been making steps along the way to try to improve that station. So I wanted to give the board a heads up to see if there's any major objections to wanting to look at debt financing for that particular project. But again, we don't think it's a whole lot of money that we would necessarily have to encumber.
And that'll be able to reimburse us also for the $475,000 that we purchased on the Washoe Valley property, so it will actually free up some cash. And we will be doing an RFP, so we'll be able to bring those back. Those will come back to the board for approval on what type of financing, what has the best rate, and we're looking at both the 15 and the 20-year term, depending on, to give us the most options and the best interest rates.
Great. Sounds good. Commissioner Herman, any questions? Commissioners, Chair Lucy, Commissioner Hartung, Commissioner Jung, any questions, concerns? All right.
I have a
No,
question.
Madam Chair.
Oh, Commissioner Jung, go right ahead.
You. When you refer to this $475,000 land purchase and reimbursing, who are we reimbursing? Who owns the land?
We do. We get to use the funds to reimburse ourselves to replenish our cash proceeds, cash.
Okay, not free up, actually replenish with that bond, potential of bond. Here's what I would say about bonds, and Cindy Vance, you know way better than I do. if these are remarkably historic low interest rates, what I assure you they are, and it won't be for long because government isn't looking so great at the local, state, and federal level, I say you move faster, Mr. Fire Chief. If it indeed locks in the rate, it doesn't go up and down. And in some ways, I'm not saying dream big because we're not in that position, but really look at, and I'm sure you already have. Again, just stating this for the record. I'm sure you've already looked at that, but I don't think you're going to have favorable conditions like this next fiscal year for bond financing. And bond financing is exactly what government does because we don't have the capital that we can raise or any other levers to pull, and it's actually at a cheaper rate than robbing Peter to pay Paul, so to say, using duct tape, baling wire, and bubble gum. So that's my 2 cents on that, but I would face that down, Ms. Vance, and I know that's why you brought it to us, Mr. Fire Chief. So well done, and I'm in support of that as long as each of those parameters as I've discussed. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jung. Any other comments from anyone? Okay, hearing none, we will move on. Chief, number 3.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Item A3 is the Station 37 Hidden Valley Development Update. As the board knows, we closed on 5335 Pelham, so we now own that. Later down your agenda is a recommendation to sell 5445 Pelham, and so we think that the transactions are going to be relatively flat for us as we possibly can get this. We will have to start over on the CAB process and the Board of Adjustment process. That will take us to about January to get that approved, and concurrently we'll be working on some architectural concepts. But we would anticipate breaking ground in April or May if the bonds are approved by the board, and we would expect to get into that station then sometime in September, October, November of 2021 and be done with that project. So things are moving forward. We certainly thank the board for approving this complex real estate transaction, but nevertheless, it's working out very, very well for us.
Good.
I'll move on
Okay.
and if the board has
Yeah,
any
just-
questions to backtrack.
if they do, they'll
I'm happy to
interrupt
do
us.
that. Item 4 is a backup emergency operations center at 3663 Barron Way, our new headquarters. We've met with county staff to review whether or not that building could serve as an emergency dispatch center and an emergency operations center. It would work out very well. We have all the IT capacity that we need. The one thing that we are missing is an emergency power generation. So we are contemplating within the next 6 months or so to bring a recommendation back to the board to actually purchase that building. And in which case, when we do purchase it, we could add all of those components necessary for the emergency operations center, as well as just really transfer what we're paying in rent to paying for the asset so that we own it over time. So both the county staff and our staff believe it's an ideal place to locate our new EOC, or a secondary EOC.
Okay.
Item 5, we took delivery of our Type 3 brush engines that were refurbished. They turned out very, very nice. I was very impressed. You can see a photo, but they are in service at various stations. And I did want to report that between the ladder truck being refurbished and buying that used and refurbishing it and refurbishing these Type 3 engines, we saved the taxpayers about $1.6 million over buying new. So we're very proud of that. The equipment is running great, and I wanted to report that to you. And then finally, before I get to item 6 in a Poville fire review, I wanted to report that we begin to distribute ash cans. Yesterday, we distributed some 900 out of the 300, a very busy day of people coming, and we're so glad to see that the citizens are taking advantage of the ash cans. And we'll continue until supplies last. So we think that we'll be out before the end of the week.
Good.
So item 6, I've asked Chief Kukulis to give you a review of the Poville fire, and he has a brief PowerPoint for you.
Thank you. Chief?
Good morning, Commissioners. Alex Kakulis, Deputy Chief of Truckee Meadows Fire. As the Chief said, just a quick update here. I know everyone's pretty well aware of the Poville fire that happened on June 27th, just about a month ago. Only a few slides here, so I'll go quickly through it. Go ahead and go to the next one. Is it hung up? We've been having technical difficulties all morning, so here we go. A little lag time. Just a quick map orientation. So the heel of the fire, which would be the lower left of that map and screen, was private land on Truckee Meadows Fire Rescue. I should caveat this presentation with saying that there's still components of this that are under investigation, so I won't be answering any questions about the origin or discussing that part of it. But off to the right there kind of breaks it down. It was just short of 3,000 total acres, 85% of that under U.S. Forest Service, which is that hashed green area, 292 acres or 9% of Truckee Meadows, and 173 City of Reno at 6%. So most all of that being down at the bottom and there where a lot of the structures were impacted. So on the left there is our agency's response. We basically dumped our resources on this thing. To note, we have 11 fire stations and about 37 personnel on duty on a daily basis. So we not only responded everything we had on duty, but then again some as people came back in off duty. So we had a total of 17 engines, 8 water tenders, 2 of our dozers, our fuel squad, 8 chief officers for about 70 total personnel. So we about doubled our shift strength responding to this thing. I was going to try and list all the other assisting agencies, but there was just too numerous. So it was basically strike teams from every other local government, Northern Nevada and the Lake Tahoe area, as well as Forest Service, BLM, and NDF. If anyone saw the air show that day, we brought in a lot of air resources, mostly out of the California and most of the Nevada stuff, from heavy VLAT, air tankers, fixed wings, helicopters. We also brought in 2 contract dozers, so for a total of 4 that helped us with that, and eventually transitioned it to a Type 3 incident management team after things had settled down. Let's see if we can get to we had a video here that didn't attach well to the PowerPoint, but I'll kind of discuss a couple things. So it's always difficult for us when we lose homes and structures. We lost 8 homes in this fire. Yeah, go ahead and start playing it. This is actually back at the top, just to kind of show you some of the heavy vegetation that was involved as this thing got going. It's up against that road there was where they were attempting to hold the fire, but unfortunately with the sustained 30-mile-an-hour winds and 60-mile-an-hour gusts, it did get into that heavy manzanita. This is down at the bottom in the area of Heindel and Virginia and Lemon Valley area where we did end up losing those 8 structures. This just gives you an idea. This is middle of the day, although it looks like it's evening with the heavy smoke conditions. I don't know that the video truly does the wind justice either, but those are some of our engines. That's a T in the road right there that they're backed into. That water hitting the screen right there is them opening their deck guns trying to protect themselves. They took a lot of heat. We actually burned up the back of one of our fire engines, not significantly, but there was some damage to it. We did send 4 personnel to the hospital during this fire. So while we hate losing those homes, our priorities here are always first responder safety, followed by the safety of the public, and then property conservation. So in that effort, this is transition now. We did a couple of our crews escorted some people, actually rescued them out of their homes, some elderly people. They're actually in the back of this vehicle as we're driving them out, trying to get them back out to some law enforcement vehicles to hand them off. But there was 3 people in total that we transported out in vehicles as those flames were encroaching on those homes. So we narrowly got the people out, as well as had to unfortunately evacuate some of our resources as the fire hit down there on those homes. So we tried to go back in afterwards, but we did lose what we lost. So not all negative. I always like to look at the positives of this too. We probably protected several hundred homes. That result there in those homes that we lost was actually a result of a spot fire about a half a mile out in front of the main body of fire that was originally lined up on the Seneca subdivision. That spot fire jumped over a little bit to the south and east and lined up on them very quickly, which didn't give us a lot of reaction time. So it's not unlike the Washoe Drive fire, the Collin fire, the Little Valley fire. When we have those kind of winds, there's not much we can do as far as extinguishing the fires. It's really more just trying to push it along in a direction and do what we can as point protection on homes and things along the way. And a lot of times those outcomes are the same. So that's kind of the review on the fire, and then just kind of the last note is, we're only about, we kind of kick off fire season in this area. It's year-round, but really Memorial Day really picks up. We're only about a month and a half, maybe 2 months into fire season with a solid 3 months to go. So just in Truckee Meadows fire jurisdiction, I ran the numbers at the end of last week, and they've obviously changed even since the weekend, but we're sitting somewhere around 100 working brush fires just this season so far, so that's a little more than one a day, almost 2 a day. I talked with the Weather Service this morning. They've issued 5 red flags so far, which is about normal for this time of year. But obviously the smoke in the air is a reminder that it's not just here, it's regional, national, and we've got a long ways ahead of us. So we're just trying to kind of keep our resources moving along and get to the end of this thing. So anyhow, I don't have any other presentation. If you have any questions, I'm available.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, any comments, questions of the chief? I'm not hearing any. I would simply. Yes,
Chairwoman,
Commissioner John.
I have a question about the whole chief's report that we didn't have a question for. I don't have a question for the Poville fire. I think that all appearances, from what I saw and heard, this was another great job by TM. But TM doesn't really, in terms of their operations and on the ground, maybe I should be more worried, Mr. Fire Chief and Deputy Fire Chief, but I really don't worry about that because I think you have demonstrated more than most in the region, and when I say the region, the Western on Fire region, that there's something about you and your direction and what you do that is critical to saving structures. And I understand you have to keep your safety first and then, of course, human beings' safety. But I really appreciate, and I know my constituents do, even if they're not affected, they call me and tell me how much they appreciate that this fire board values people's living structures and does all that they can to make sure that is a priority in a wildfire, which is all the ones you at Truckee Meadows really fight, which is that interface with the wildland and the homes that are unfortunately in the fire's track. So great report. Thank you so much. I think you guys did a great job. I have a question about the backup emergency operations and dispatch center. It's an easy one. I want to make sure I've got my facts clear. Didn't we also say that when we bought this land down south to move this station, that not only did we want to be a secondary or backup, we also wanted it to provide for the sheriff or any other assisting agencies a helicopter landing site? Is that still part of the this expansion, Mr. Fire Chief?
Yes, Commissioner Jung, that would actually be proposed for the consolidated station in Washoe Valley. With respect to the backup emergency operations center, that's intended for our new headquarters that we're currently leasing.
Okay. Oh, okay. I got you. So, okay, perfect. Great location. I want to say, too, thank you for refurbishing those ladder trucks and spreading them across the geographical boundaries here so that we get more use out of them rather than being clustered in one area. So that's all I have, Madam Chairwoman. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jung. Chief Kukulis, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate your report. Thank you very much to all of our firefighters. I second what Commissioner Jung said. I find myself being concerned about your safety and making sure that, nobody gets hurt, but I never really worry about your ability to get the fires out because you guys are so outstanding and you do such terrific work. So thank you so much for all of that and for all that you do. I really appreciate it. Thanks for your report.
Thank you, and I failed to mention some thanks too to, of course, all our staff, but we've just hired Chief Eisenhagen this last May. We finally got him here. We can't recognize him because he's got a mask on, but he's done a tremendous job in getting our Fuels and Wildland Division up and running. You'll see here in a moment some additional items here to bring some other resources on. And we're rapidly expanding that division, which has been a huge help in managing all these fires. And then lastly, kind of segueing on to Captain Reed's presentation with the Peer Support Program. During this fire, when we sent those 4 personnel to the hospital, all of our chief officers were committed to the fire. I was able to call Stephen Nicholas, our contracted mental wellness physician. He went down to the hospital, sat with them, and actually gave them a ride back to the fire. So it's just a great family of resources that we've got.
Yeah.
So thank you to everyone.
Wonderful team. Thank you very much. All right. right. Chief, I'm seeing no other comments from anyone, and I see this is for discussion only, so we can just move on.
Very good. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. The item B is the Commissioner dashboard. I want to point out item B5. We are expecting to bring back probably October, maybe September, but I think October, have a BLM come and present about the next steps about developing a shooting range. I know that this is important to Commissioner Herman, and we've been active with BLM. Fortunately, their agency head, regional head, has taken another position somewhere, so we're not really losing a lot of momentum, but we think we'll be able to come and present something cogent to you in October and perhaps develop a 2-year timeline to be able to develop something.
Okay, good. Good.
And I'll let the rest of the report stand, the dashboard stand unless there's any other questions. And then item C is review of critical calls. I do want to mention today that we'll have some critical fire weather Tuesday and especially Wednesday. Wednesday may be the worst of it. So I want to prepare our constituents for localized heavy rain, possibly some hail, and certainly some thunderstorms, which we hope that there'll be wet thunderstorms.
Right. Yeah.
And
Okay.
that concludes my report, Madam Vice Chair.
All right. Commissioners, anybody have any questions or comments for the chief?
Madam Chairwoman, a quick question for the fire chief, if I may.
Commissioner Jung.
Mr. Fire Chief, yesterday I heard that during a interruption of my radio that there was a big with the pinging and that, and it said to expect hail the size of quarters in Incline Village, Crystal Bay, Washoe counties, essentially. And I know it's not your coverage area, but I know you're in contact with all of them. Did that indeed turn out true, and was there any damage?
Commissioner Jung, I'm not sure if they did experience hail. We'll have a weather briefing again this morning and again tomorrow morning, but I can certainly ask the National Weather Service to see what the experience was.
No, don't waste your time, because I didn't hear anything, and if the commissioner of the district didn't hear anything, it's fine. But it made me think about when you said, and we hope we don't get some thunderstorms, it just made me think, did that actually happen? Because quarter-sized hail is very destructive. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jung. All right. With that, then, seeing no other comments from commissioners, we will move on to item 9. Chief.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Item 9 is a recommendation to authorize staff to list for sale 5445 Pelham. We believe the listing price will be between $565,000 and no more than $580,000, depending on a professional market analysis. And we do have a realtor queued up, ready to go. And if the board approves this, we'll get it listed likely within the next couple of weeks. I think there's a couple of things we want to improve. I think we had a section of fence blow down, so we'll repair a few things before we get it ready to actually list, but it will be within the next 2 weeks.
Good. Commissioners, any questions of the chief?
No, Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Lucy.
Yes, Chair Lucy.
You know what? First of all, I want to thank the chief for his quick ability to make these kind of adjustments on the fly. With the purchase of the new house on Pelham for the station, which is much more advantageous for us, being with the way that we've been moving, I think this is going to be a great and a very smart move for the district in its entirety. And if there are no other questions, I would like to make the motion for the improvement of Hidden Valley, that we put this back on the market and move quickly.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second. Any other comments from anyone?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I do need to point out one typographical error in
Okay.
the agenda. It should be read as District 2, not District 4. Sorry about that.
It should read what?
District 2,
Oh, District 2, yes, not 4. Yeah,
my bad.
okay, no problem. Do we have any public comment on this?
I have nobody signed in.
Anybody on Zoom? No one on Zoom. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Please, you guys can't check it, just Commissioner Herman and I can. But it sounds like the motion carried unanimously. as it did, so with all commissioners voting. So with that, we will move on to item 10. Chief?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Item 10 is a recommendation to add a second fuels crew. This is going to be no cost to TM taxpayers. It is being funded through NV Energy and perhaps Nevada Division of Forestry. I'm not sure exactly where those funds are coming from, but one of the two. And we have the candidates selected, and if the board approves this, we'll move on with bringing on that second crew. I believe they'll be starting in the Verdi area sometime soon, working under power lines there. Lots of work to do in the Verdi area with respect to
Yes.
fuels management. But very, very excited to get them here. Not only are they doing the fuels projects, but we use them for Mop-Up and developing fuel lines and cold trailing fires when we do get our own brush fires. So it's really a great resource to have this summer when we're
Good.
so busy.
Sounds great. Commissioners, any questions, comments? I'm hearing none. Do we have any public comment on this, Madam Clerk?
Nobody signed in.
And nobody on Zoom? All right, we'll close public comment, bring it back to the board. I need a motion to approve item 10 and the new fuels crew. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
I,
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with all commissioners voting. All right, Chief, we'll move on. Do we need a closed session for purposes of fire?
No, we do not.
Okay, so we will move on to our final commissioners and fire chiefs announcements. Chief, do you have anything else?
I just wanted to echo what Commissioner Hartung had mentioned in the first announcements, that we're bringing on 9 additional employees this week. Very, very happy to have them join us, and we're pretty much at full strength right now.
Good. Commissioners, anyone else have something they want to add or comments?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Hartung.
Yes, and again, I wanted to congratulate the chiefs. One thing that I didn't bring up, but I think it's very important, because this was a model. During the graduation ceremony, they had a table where everyone had to check in, name, email, phone numbers. They took temperatures. They had masks if you did not have one. They had hand sanitizing stations. I mean, this was a model on how these kinds of gatherings could occur. And I wanted to just thank the chief. He did mention that we have 9. We had 10 people in the graduating class. And Chief, where was the one person from which area?
South Lake Tahoe.
South Lake. So we trained one South Lake. It was a great ceremony, Chief. You guys did again an amazing job and seamless, just absolutely seamless. And so I was impressed. It was a model. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Commissioner Hartung. Anybody else? All right, we will move on to our final public comment. Chief.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Item 13 is public comment. Comment heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the Board of Fire Commissioners' agenda. The district will also hear public comment during individual action items with comment limited to 3 minutes per person. Comments are to be made to the Board of Fire Commissioners as a whole.
Thank you, Chief. Madam Clerk, any public comments?
I have nobody signed in.
Anything on Zoom? Seeing no public comments, we will close public comments, and with that, bring it back to the board, and with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Those who are on Zoom, we will go to our commission, our BCC meeting at 10 o'clock. Thank you. Bye.